Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Any personal appeals? If you have a personal appeal, please approach the podium, state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes to present your appeal. Upon hearing none, Community Minute. Any member of council have anything for Community Minute this evening? Dr. Waddell, I knew you would.
Well, I just think we have to celebrate the good things that go on. We had a wonderful student art film festival. Mr. Truly chair and great committee. We had 170 some students involved, 44 teams. It was really a nice event. I think we were there, Mr. Holsafer, and some great movies, some great student work that was done, and just appreciate what the Arts Commission does for us.
I agree. The quality of the event was impressive to me. I did not realize that students could make things of that quality. And I know what my students do, but I was glad to see one of my students, former student, won the event also. So
well, it's great. We have to thank Alan Brown for using movie theater. So we were just saying it's a win-win-win for the community having it there. It's just great, and for students to create something like that and see it up on that big screen is just so cool.
I agree. Family and friends, and quite a great atmosphere.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Thank you, Dr. Waddell. Special presentations. Any special presentations? Oh, you have a Community Minute, Mr. Brown?
Yes, I do.
Let's hear it.
Brian Miller from Upper Milford Township, the Emmaus Upper Milford Joint Environmental Advisory Council. He asked if they need 2 more members. So if there's somebody in the community that would like to join that council, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Anything else, Mr. Brown?
No, that was it.
All right.
It's a great parade, Joe.
That was the last meeting, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, because the mayor said something last meeting about it. But thank you. Yeah, it was a great parade. All right, special presentations. Any special presentations this evening? You have anything? Nope. Reading of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to dispense with the formal reading of the minutes from the October 21st, 2013 meeting. Motion by Mr. Barrett. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Shuvsta. All in favor? We have 5 ayes. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? On hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of the October 21st meeting as drafted. Motion by Dr. Waddell. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Brown. Discussion? All in favor? We have 5 ayes. Moving on to communications. Starting with letter B, a letter from Vicki Gruber to Mr. Pepe, Mr. Barrett, and the rest of Borough Council regarding Parks and Rec Commission. I'll read the letter. After much consideration, I've decided to resign from the commission. My life has taken many twists and turns over the past few months, always bringing me back to the most important thing, my family. As my children are grown, I want to spend quality time with my grandchildren and supporting their activities, doing things that a grandmother was created to do. My husband and I have started a small business that we hope will grow, which could afford us the opportunity to travel as a family. I cannot thank the commission, past and present members, Emmaus Borough Council, Emmaus Borough managers, and the residents of Emmaus enough for all their help and support. The past 10 years have been enjoyable as well as a learning experience. Once again, thank you for everything. Sincerely, Vicki Gruber. I believe we need a motion to accept Mrs. Gruber's resignation with regret. Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Brown. Discussion. Go ahead, Mr. Barrett.
Just a simple thank you, but 10 years on that commission, definitely. Progress is slow, which is sometimes the process, but some of the things that Vicki introduced to that commission are things that I know will carry on for a number of years, and one of them is taking the field scheduling that went from one of the craziest meetings. It was almost like being in an auction, trying to get your field reserved, and she brought it completely streamlined to the point that the people that are interested in getting a field could literally show up at the meeting, submit their information, and it was already organized and ready to go. It will be something that if she wants to have a legacy, that's one her scheduling will definitely live on. So I appreciate what you've done, Vicki.
Those in favor of accepting Mrs. Gruber's resignation? We have 5 ayes. If we could thank her and please let her know all she has done for us and how wonderful it's been. I believe Community Day is a legacy of Mrs. Gruber also. She has done a lot. Next letter of communication would be from Jeanette Lehman of 414 Cherokee Street. Please accept this letter as my indication that I would like to serve another 3-year term as a volunteer representative on the Emmaus Public Library Board starting January 1st, 2014. I believe that gets referred to general administration and then waits till the first meeting of January to be acted upon.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next would be letter D from our library director, Mrs. Large. Dear Mr. Pepe, this letter is intended to thank everyone who was in any way involved with the very efficient and very professional lighting retrofit project at the library building. From the approval to proceed with the upgrade from Borough Council to the refurbishing of the last fixture, all was handled very well. Special thanks go to John Dyshala and his electrician Alan Lewis, who scheduled and orchestrated the other borough workers to accomplish the tasks at hand. The Emmaus Fire Department lent their Baker's scaffolds for the project. The lights in the library are quiet, no buzzing ballast. The light is a softer and yet brighter light. We hope to see the benefits in several ways. Fewer requests for replacing light bulbs and a reduction in the amount of electricity used. The rebate for the project will help replenish the library's reserve account, with the reduced electric bill aiding in eventually recovering the rest over the next few years. Sincerely, Francis Larish. It is a much better system, much nicer. Hopefully you can get to the library and there are things in the library you probably have never seen before that you will now see because of the new lights. Next would be a letter from William Huber, Secretary of the Emmaus Civil Service Commission, with a list of 3 names from the police eligibility list in accordance with the Civil Service rules and regulations. And this would be referred to General Administration? Public Safety. I'll refer that to Public Safety. Thank you. Next letter. A letter from Attorney John Stover about a lease or purchase of a portion of the Emmaus Community Garden, which was a very confusing letter to me. Who would you like this referred to, Mr. Pepe?
Jeanette.
We'll refer this to General Administration. Mr. Stover has a client who's interested in opening a business, I guess, on a property that he says is part of the Emmaus Community Gardens. I was a little confused with it, so General Administration can hash that out.
We'll take care of it.
Thank you, sir. On your desk this evening, or at least on my desk this evening, are a few other pieces of communication. There is a letter to Mrs. Gilbert from the CACLB, the Community Action Committee of the Lehigh Valley, requesting a contribution. They are an organization that assists homeless in the Lehigh Valley. I'll refer that to Budget and Finance. There is a letter from the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission addressed to Mr. Gibson requesting money towards a grant application of which we need to commit to a match. That'll be referred also to Budget and Finance. And I'm not sure if everyone got this one or not, but then there is a letter from, a copy of an email from Laura Zuliger from the organization called Nerd Wallet, a consumer advocacy website. And she wanted to let us know that they released a study, and Emmaus came in at the number 6 best city in Pennsylvania to raise a family. Quite an award for us. I see the other cities, and we are definitely pretty far up there in the rankings and our affordability. So hopefully you get a chance to look at that. I see there is she's going to provide us with a press release also. So we'll get that out to the press and tout ourselves, but that's a pretty nice award. Anyone else have any communication this evening? All right, moving on. Borough Engineers Report. I don't see an engineer, so there will be no report. Solicitors Report. Mr. Dimmick, nice to see you this evening.
Nice to see you. I have no formal report.
Even better.
But I assume we are having an executive session where I would like to go over matters.
Yes, sir. We'll have an executive session at the end regarding a legal matter, which I'm assuming is the same matter that I would like to talk about. Thank you, sir. Unfinished business part 1. Under unfinished business part 1, I have 2 ordinances. Ordinance number 1101, ordinance number 1102, both properly advertised for second reading this evening. Letter G is the first ordinance, and I will entertain a motion to read that ordinance in short title. Motion by Dr. Waddell. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Barrett. Discussion? All in favor? We have 5 ayes. I'll read the ordinance in short title. Ordinance number 1101, an ordinance of the Borough of Emmaus, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, amending Ordinance 1099 in Chapter 15, Section 602.2.a of the Emmaus Borough Code, removing residential handicap parking signs on the public street located in front of 201 South 5th Street and 250 North Street within the Borough of Emmaus. I'll entertain a motion to adopt Ordinance 1101 as read. Motion by Mr. Brown. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Barrett. Discussion. This will be a roll call vote. Mr. Brown. Aye. Mr. Shubsta.
Aye.
Dr. Waddell.
Aye.
Mr. Barrett.
Aye.
And Mr. Holtsafer votes aye. Motion passes 5 ayes. Next is ordinance number 1102, which is letter H in your packet. And I will again entertain a motion to read it in short title. Motion by Dr. Waddell, second by Mr. Barrett. I'll read it. Ordinance number 1102, an ordinance of the Borough of Emmaus, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, amending the Code of Ordinances, sections 343, 344, 373, and 801 of Chapter 1, and amending ordinance number 1088 to include new membership requirements of the Special Entertainment Commission and requiring bylaws for all borough commissions not otherwise governed by the Pennsylvania Borough Code. I'll entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 1101 as read. I'm sorry, 1102. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Waddell. Discussion? Dr. Waddell.
The piece in here requiring bylaws for all borough commissions not otherwise governed by the country board of government. Who would that affect?
Earth Commission,
We have-
which already has them.
You already have
Special Entertainment, Parks and Recs.
Parks and Rec, just the 3 of them.
not planning, not zoning, not civil service, correct? They have state required bylaws.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And it will be a roll call vote. Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Shubsta.
Aye.
Dr. Waddell.
Aye.
Mr. Barrett.
Aye.
And Mr. Holtsafer votes aye. Passes with 5 ayes. Moving on to new business. Ordinance number 1103. An ordinance relating to the organization of the fire department. Scheduled for first reading this evening, Mr. Pepe. You ready to go with that? Process of doing that is the same as what I've done for the last one. Then I will entertain a motion to read the ordinance in short title. Motion by Mr. Barrett, second by Mr. Brown. I'll read it. An ordinance relating to the organization of the Borough of Emmaus Fire Department, establishing procedures, guidelines, and requirements for the operation of the fire department employee and volunteer positions, the payment of salaries and stipends, ownership and maintenance of equipment, record keeping, and other administrative requirements. And I'll entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 1103. Motion by Dr. Waddell, second by Mr. Brown. Discussion. Mr. Brown.
Yes, after reading this ordinance, before we have a second reading, I would like to maybe see what other council members' thoughts are on the funding of the fire department. Page 4.
Page 4, letter D, borough funding.
Yeah, letter D, number 2. It says at the very last, if lawful, council may set the financial donation for a period of 2 consecutive years.
Page 4, letter D, number 2 at the bottom. Sorry, Mr. Brown. I read that myself. You're curious what other council members thought?
Yeah, because I have my opinion, and I'd like to know what maybe the other members are thinking as well, see what maybe direction.
Mr.
Was
Shubsta?
there a reason why 2 was picked? That was why I circled.
That was the fire department's request.
Is that who it was?
It didn't seem to me to be very binding in that council may set the financial donation, not council will set, so it said they may set. I think it would be very difficult, speaking as the chair of budget and finance, to set a number that I knew had to be that number for 2 years. Now, that's not to say we don't do it with salaries and with contracts and with other negotiations, but I did notice it said May set. So I don't know if anyone else has any other feedback to share with Mr. Brown. Anyone else have any concerns on the first reading of this ordinance? Mr. Barrett?
Well, I mean, I guess the question, and it did come up during public safety, is if we want to keep that line in there. I mean, that's really the question that we presented. I think when we were discussing it, we talked that we would discuss this on the floor at council so that all council members could make a decision on that. On first glance, it sounds like a great idea because one of the concerns that the fire department has is their funding. However, we don't do this for any other groups, so making sure that it stays fair to all the other groups is also important. So I think that we should set the tone now so that this doesn't come out in the second reading and then seem like it was something that was done last minute.
There are instances where it would not be legal, for sure.
Correct.
And there would be, if we were on one of those years where you have a council change, you couldn't do it for a 2-year period then. Even if you had the same council, you still wouldn't be bound by it because you always have a right to change your budget and set your taxes. It's almost, to be very honest with you, it's almost a meaningless provision. I think it was put in, from my understanding, it was put in at the fire department's request. It would be nice to be able to estimate what they could have, but I don't see any way you would ever be bound by it.
Anyone else? Mr. Brown?
Well, since the Mr. Solicitor said that we wouldn't be, so why even have it in there then? Should we just strike it? My question is, should we just strike it then from the ordinance?
Well, it was put in the slate gate department.
Correct.
I don't foresee any issue with it. It says May.
All right.
But if your choice is to remove it, we would do that by a motion of council to remove that? Or?
I would add that to the motion to move it to the second reading with the provision that you're going to strike subsection D2.
And the fourth whereas, there's an M missing.
I'm sorry, I missed what you just said, Mr. Dimick. I heard what you said, but I didn't hear where.
The fourth whereas, second sentence. Unless
Not intention. It is called the Emmaus fire. It's been around that long that that's what it's still called.
Yes.
I questioned that once myself. All right, Mr. Brown, would you like? I'm sorry. Who made the original motion? Dr. Waddell with the second by.
Mr. Brown.
Dr. Waddell, you would have to amend your motion to strike that line from it if you feel comfortable with that.
Well, I think with the word may in there, I'm actually okay with it that way. That gives council some leeway to it. Like I said, will, I have a problem with it, but it says may. You know, the latitude is there. The council's going to have to decide in the future how they want to handle it. So I will stay by that motion.
Mr. Barrett.
Just don't comment, yeah.
Absolutely.
Actually, when I came to the meeting, I was asked this question, and I was actually the only of the 3 committee members that felt that it was a good idea. On first glance, it is a really good idea because I knew exactly where their concerns were. But I think that it opens up Pandora's box in a sense that, are we going to do this and for other departments? We've never done it in another department. And further, it doesn't mean anything, so why are we trying to even pretend that we're going to do this? Why not just be factual and say, this is what this year's budget is, this is what next year's budget is, instead of offering something and then creating more tension down the road, is my concern. I think that the goal of this council is that we want the fire department to feel ultimately comfortable with everything that goes on council, that it is working together and it's not working against each other. And I think that if we leave something that has some gray area to it, that it opens it up to that. We want a strong relationship, not one that's filled with tension. And that's my concern, is if we said let's say we set it this year, even though it wouldn't even be legal to do this year because of council changing. But if we set it in the future, and then it changes, then it starts that tension again. Oh, well, you said we would do this. So that's actually my concern. I would recommend taking it out.
And I see it the opposite way. I think the word may in there and leave it open to councils, people who, other than us, it's there. If they want to do it, they can do it. So I'm not going to change. I will not change my mind.
That's fine, Dr. Waddell. Then we'll, oh, go ahead, Mr. Brown, still discussion?
Yeah, I feel that if we leave this in, I think then the ambulance corps, the public works department, and the fire and the police department have, a leg to stand on in the sense of coming to us. Then, well, we like to have an agreement for every 2 consecutive years as well. And I think, Dr. Waddell, I think I would really encourage you to amend your motion. I think it will cause animosity down the road. That's because we need to work together with the fire department, and I think this does not do that.
Well, there's a process, Mr. Brown, right now, voting on a properly made motion. If that motion would fail, then someone else could make a motion.
I understand that.
So you're up with the process. Any other discussion related to moving it to second reading? Then we'll be voting on the ordinance number 1103 and moving it to second reading. All those in favor of the motion to move it to second reading? Oh, it's a roll call vote, excuse me. Those in a roll call vote in favor of moving it to second reading. Mr. Brown?
No.
Mr. Shobsta?
No.
Dr. Waddell?
Aye.
Holtsafer votes aye. Barrett?
No.
The motion fails with Brown, Shobsta, and Barrett voting no. Is there a motion on the floor relating to ordinance number 1103? Mr. Barrett?
So I'll make a motion to amend the ordinance, removing the line, if lawful, council may set the financial donation for a period of 2 consecutive years. That's the only one.
I'll second that.
There's a motion by Mr. Barrett, second by Mr. Brown, to move ordinance number 1103 second reading with the stipulation of the removal of the line found under section D, Roman numeral 2, section D, part 2, last sentence, if lawful, council may set the financial donation for a period of 2 consecutive years with that line removed. Once again, a roll call vote. Mr. Barrett?
Before we get to...
Short discussion, go right ahead.
Again, I want to be very clear because I know exactly how this issue can go, and I know personally, and I know council from speaking to other members, is that our goal is to make it so that there is no tension with the fire department. And this is exactly a reason to do that, so that down the road, more tension is not created. It has nothing to do with, it's not a vote in any manner against the fire department. Clearly what we've done here, we've put a considerable amount of time into this ordinance to try and make something that really does work for both parties. I just want to make sure that that's very clear so that the fire department does understand that this is not a vote against them, it's actually a vote in an effort to try and make peace for a long time, is basically what I'm saying.
Any other discussion? Mr. Brown?
Yeah, just so other council members know that we've, at the Public Safety Committee level, have worked very diligently on this ordinance. Many, many hours have gone into this, and we feel that this is the best scenario for our volunteer fire department.
Appreciate that. Any other council member have discussion?
That's a question. We are just removing that one line.
One line, correct.
Not the whole paragraph.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, this will be a roll call vote. Mr. Barrett?
Aye.
Mr. Holtsafer votes aye. Dr. Waddell?
Aye.
Mr. Shobsta?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
We have 5 ayes. Do I have to accept them already?
You can abstain if you care to.
Okay. Mr. Lavenberg arrived at 7:24. And Mr. Ladenburg, we're discussing ordinance number 1103, the ordinance related to the fire department. We have struck one line from it, and there's a motion on the floor. Very good, to adopt that ordinance minus that one line. If there's any other information any of us can provide before you vote, we'd be glad to. If you're comfortable voting, we'll accept your vote.
I read the ordinance and Les told me the line that's being removed, so.
Good, thank you very much, Mr. Ladenburg. Mr. Ladenburg votes aye. Ordinance passes, moves on to second reading by a 6-0 vote. When will second reading be, Mr. Pepe? You have an idea?
First reading in December, yeah.
Very good, we'll be voting on this ordinance, the first meeting in December.
Mr. Wallpaper, can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
I just want to thank my committee members and Mr. Pepe and the solicitor's office and the members of the fire department that took part in drafting this ordinance. We spent hours and hours and hours on this ordinance, and I'm so happy it has made it through tonight on first reading. So thank you, everybody, for the work that you put in for this.
Thank you, Mrs. Gilbert. Moving on to unfinished business part 2. I don't have anything under unfinished business part 2 this evening. Items not on the agenda, subject to Rule 9. Any member of council have anything? Seeing none, the mayor's report. Mrs. Gilbert, you have anything?
Yeah, just in the absence of the mayor, we had National Take Back Day, October 26th, and 195 pounds of prescription and non-prescription medication was collected here in the borough, which actually put us second to Allentown as far as municipalities were concerned. So we did collect a substantial amount of prescription drugs and non-prescription. So progress on the mayor's end.
Thank you. Moving on to committee reports, beginning with Public Works Committee. Mr. Ladenburg.
Yes, we did not have a meeting since last council meeting, but we do have a committee meeting this Thursday, the 7th, at 3 o'clock here in council chambers. Progress.
Thank you, Mr. Ladenburg. Health, Sanitation, and Conservation. Mr. Showsta.
Yes, thank you. We did not have a meeting also. Our next meeting is scheduled for November 25th at 5 p.m. Progress.
Thank you, Mr. Showsta. Parks and Recreation. Mr. Barrett.
We will be rescheduling our meeting for tomorrow. I'll work with the two of you to get a date that works. Progress.
Thank you, sir. Public Safety. Who would like to report on public safety this evening?
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Real quick, only one item for full council, and that is a ambulance volunteer. And her name is Stacy Spolowski of 6230 Acorn Drive, Emmaus. She has an application here that was that she went through the interview process with our borough manager Shane Pepe and also our chief Michael Nonamaker, who's here. I'm bringing her forward as a volunteer for the Emmaus Ambulance Corps. I'll make that into a motion.
Thank you, sir. There's a motion on the floor to appoint Stacy Spahowski as a volunteer to the Emmaus Ambulance Corps. Is there a second to Mr. Brown's motion? Second by Mr. Ladenburg. Discussion? All those in favor? We have 6 ayes.
Nothing else to report on from public safety. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, November 6th at 2 p.m. here in Council Chambers. Progress.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Just one other item.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Next week, the committee will be conducting interviews for police officers.
Oh, yes.
So if you could check your schedule, please, and let me know if Wednesday is good.
Very good. And you're welcome. Thank you.
Could I ask a question based on that? Do you wish to have the solicitor present, and I definitely would like to review the list of questions. I know the manager has some questions that he usually uses. I have questions that I have used in the past. How would you like to conduct it?
If you want to send your questions in, Mr. Pepe, do you have questions that you have to ask as well?
Yeah, we usually use a list from the
The
Chiefs
chief
Association.
usually provides questions.
From the Chiefs Association.
Okay, if you want to review those as well, it's not necessary.
When you say interviews, is interviews for the oral, or this is
This is for hire.
This is for hire.
Mhm.
I mean, I just want to avoid that, the
I
issue
understand.
that happened in the past.
I understand.
I will send them over and you can.
Okay, that'll work. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Dimick. Moving on to the General Administration Committee, Dr. Waddell.
Thank you, Mr. Holsafer. We have nothing for council action this evening. Our next meeting will be November 13, 9 a.m. here in the council chambers, and I'll report progress.
Thank you, sir. Budget and Finance, there are two items on the agenda this evening. The first would be letter M. If you could read the resolution for us, please, Mr. Shipstead.
Resolution 2013-27, resolved by Borough Council to authorize payment of the November 4th, 2013 bill list as follows. Bill list, $259,500.38. Payroll number 22, $106,114.05. Payroll taxes, $35,691.98. For a total of $401,306.41 done this 4th of November 2013.
And you'd like to make that
And
into a
I'd like to
motion?
make that in the form of a motion.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second to Mr. Shipstead's motion? Second by Dr. Waddell. Discussion? All in favor? We have 6 ayes. Next on the Budget and Finance Committee agenda this evening was the East Penn Emmaus Football Association storage building lease agreement. As compared to the original draft, there's one change in it which relates to the liability insurance. The original liability insurance asked for a coverage of $3 million. Football asked us to review that. We did, and Mr. Pepe is comfortable reducing that to a coverage of $2 million. Otherwise, looks good. We'll be very happy to move forward with this. So I will entertain a motion to move forward with this lease. Someone like to make that motion, please? Motion by Mr. Ladyberg. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Shufsta. Discussion. All in favor? We have 6 ayes. Thank you, gentlemen. I believe that's it for Budget and Finance. I'll report progress. And then letter O, Community Relations, Planning and Development. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Holsaver. Nothing for official action for tonight, but I do want to give you a quick brief update. Mr. Holsaver, you already submitted this to your budgeting and Budget and Finance Committee, the Lehigh Valley Planning Commissioning. We're doing the Southwestern Lehigh Comprehensive Planning, and we met on October 28th with Mr. Gibson and Mr. Farnsworth as well here. We Emmaus hosted the 6 other municipalities, and what we came up together with is that that the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission will conduct our comprehensive plan for 2015, and they also were able to find out that there is a DCED grant for $25,000. Right now this project is at about $70,000, and so if we as a group of municipalities get together and apply for this grant, we have a really good shot at getting this grant of $25,000. I put a request in, or I'm sorry, the CRD committee put a request in at $10,000. That number could go lower potentially if we get this grant from DCD. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and hopefully we can get this done and through, because if we do it by ourselves, it alone for ourselves would be $70,000 to $90,000. So there's definitely a substantial savings by coming collectively together and working together as a team in municipalities here in the southwestern Lehigh part. So progress.
Thanks, sir. Moving on to the Junior Council Members Report. Mr. Hobson.
Thank you, Mr. Oldsaver. I just wanted to report that November 7th, 8th, and 9th, there's going to be disco play. It's at 7 p.m. in the auditorium, the Pride and Prejudice. Also, men's field hockey just won their 25th straight district title, which is pretty impressive, especially coming from Emmaus. It's awesome. And they're playing tomorrow at Whitehall Field at 7 p.m. I don't know who they're playing for this time, but
Hopefully they beat them.
I'll be there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hobson. Moving on to personal appeals, part 2. If any member of the audience has a personal appeal, please step up to the podium, state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes to present your appeal.
My name is Susan Purod. I live at 3802 Churchview Road in Emmaus. My husband Chris is a public works employee. As you all know, October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I'm sure that each and every one of us have been touched by cancer in some way. And I would like to propose that for next October, the 17 public works employees wear a pink borough shirt with the Emmaus insignia on the front and the ribbon on the back. I'm not saying every day in October, but Fridays, of the month. Okay, I think that this would show Emmaus residents that borough workers can come together for this very important cause, and I'm willing to raise the money for the cost of the shirts. And I feel that this gesture would bring the borough together and show other municipalities that Emmaus is a caring community.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Pirro. What a very nice idea. I'll refer that idea to CRD. Oh, I thought CRD should get it, shouldn't they? Public Works wants it? We'll give it to the Public Works Committee to discuss, but it's a very good idea. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We tried to do the pink fountain for October, but that didn't work.
If all guys like to wear pink, that's fine.
We dumped pink cayenne and green.
Yeah,
Green
right.
turned
So,
around.
yeah.
If I said
Bunch
big.
of geniuses.
We tried. It was an excellent idea.
Anyone else with a personal appeal? Upon hearing none. Borough Manager's Report, Mr. Pepe.
2 items for you. Letter P in your binder is the significant revenue and expense items for October. No idea what it
Same as it always does.
Yeah.
Doesn't really change.
Same old stuff. Do you have any questions on that? Additionally, letter Q in your binder is a resolution I'm going to ask you to vote on. It's regarding the requirement to have a resolution adopted for the application for the RACP grant. So that way we can get that off of our plate and in. So if you do not adopt that resolution, we cannot formally apply for the grant.
So this is a resolution for us to receive the grant money from the state relating to the redevelopment project of 187 to 191 Main Street, correct?
Correct.
And all we need is a motion and an adoption of this?
Correct.
Is there a motion to apply for the grant? So moved by Dr. Waddell. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Brown. Discussion.
This is a follow-up from the last meeting.
Correct. This is the
Just
formal.
an actual extension.
Yeah, this is the formal resolution that you have to adopt.
Any other discussion? All in favor? We have 5 ayes. You're good, Mr. Pepe. 6 ayes. 6 ayes. It's good I brought you. It's good you came. I knew the mess this would be. Under President's Business, I do have to request a executive session tonight regarding to legal matters. I do not anticipate any formal action being taken upon our return, and we will be in recess at 7:39? At 7:39 p.m. I like that, bro.